So Margaret, Aitken, Rob Puccini, friends of Beau Biden, have known him for a long time here to give us a little bit of an insight. So what was Beau like as a kid? Rob, you knew him from elementary school, right?
Yes, I did. He was always so polite, kind, shook your parents' hand. All the parents loved him. And as I've said before, you know, all growing up, we called him the sheriff because he was such a good boy. And it gave him, I think, a good entree into becoming the Attorney General in Delaware. So,
Margaret, you...
Well, I haven't known him as long as Rob. I met him in high school. Our lockers actually were right next to each other because it was alphabetical. So Aitken, Biden,
maybe, right.
for 4 years. And it just, you know, what you saw really is what you got. I mean, he was that guy that you saw in 2008 introduce his dad at the Democratic National Convention. I mean, nobody wrote that speech. That was Beau. And, you know, just a really loving, warm, kind, loyal person. And, you know, I think that if you met him once, he was your friend.
And that's the thing that we've heard. And you said it, Rob, that he was so compassionate and caring about other people.
what was great about Beau is he never lost his friends. So his friends from elementary school and high school and college and law school are still his friends today. And everyone has just fond memories. If you knew him well, you knew he had a tremendous sense of humor and had a great laugh and would regale in stories of you know, of growing up, and it was really nice how real he was. And he was kind, a very kind person. As Terry Wright said recently, he was innately kind. He did not know how not to be nice to people. And
which is tough in politics.
Yeah, very tough in politics.
Politics is a hard profession.
If you wanted to prod him a little bit, you know, I was saying to Margaret on the way over, we would go to Capriotti's or Charcoal Pit all the time, right. And growing up, or wherever, any restaurant, any public place, and people would inevitably come up and talk to him, and Beau would speak to every person for as long as that person wanted to speak to him. And he truly was engaged and would remember their names. And, you know, after, you know, years upon years of him making you late to where you were going, you would get annoyed. And so we would go in, I said, Beau, we only have 5 minutes here, or 10 minutes. And so if I was annoyed, we'd get in the car. I said, you know, the third person you spoke to in there, the lady with the blonde hair, you know, I think you cut her short a little bit. And the whole car ride to wherever you're going, he would be up, seriously,
he would feel guilty.
Booch, seriously, did I really cut her off? I'm like, I'm joking, you know, how many times do I have to tease you about this? You know I'm teasing you. But he really had a great heart.
And for somebody who didn't know him personally, you know, we reported on him and met him at press conferences and interviewed him, and he was always gracious to us and gave us time. Mm-hmm. But for somebody who didn't know him personally, you could look at that and say, oh, well, that's a calculated thing, that he's being nice to me, that he's being nice to these people because they're voters. But that's not the case. No,
I mean, he just had he had a great soul and just a really kind person. Like Robbie said, I mean, ever since he was a kid, like, he's always been that way. They're a very loving, very close family. I don't ever remember being with his dad where he didn't have a phone conversation with Beau where they said "I love you" at the end. Yeah. I mean, he ended phone calls with me, and I'm sure Robbie like that. Like, "I love you," and send a text like "love you," you know. And he was just a really decent, good guy.
So Margaret, you worked for Vice President Biden when he was Delaware Senator for many years. Do you think that Beau felt the pressure of being the son of a U.S. Senator who was very high profile nationally, even being from Delaware, that this is my dad, I have to do A, B, and C because of who my dad is, because of what's expected of me?
No, I mean, I think that he certainly felt you know, I mean, he knew he was a senator's son. He was raised that way, but I don't think that he got into politics for that reason. I think it was almost born into him. You know, he was, like Robbie said, we called him the sheriff. You know, because he just was good. He was the president of our class in high school. You know, he was a natural leader, and he was really compassionate, and he really wanted to make a difference. And I think for people like that, that's a natural, you know, progression into politics. You know, I've often said that, you know, after 9/11, I was actually in D.C. with his dad in the Capitol when, I mean, we were evacuated, and the whole country was just really shaken, and you know, everybody wanted to do something. Everybody did. But Beau actually did it. You know, he joined the National Guard. He was comfortable. He was in his 30s. He had a great career. He had a great future. And he joined the National Guard, and he ended up going to Iraq. I mean, there's not a lot of people that would do that. I certainly didn't have the courage to do that. And that was him.
And then after Iraq, he served his entire term. He could have been honorably discharged, and he chose to stay and re-up. And he continued to be in the National Guard and take weekends and weeks away from his family. He felt a strong loyalty to his fellow guardsmen. And
you know, I mean, even politics-wise, I mean, Beau always felt like a very strong sense of service, and he wanted to earn it on himself. To go back to your question about his dad, I mean, I know that this is pretty common knowledge, but when Jane Brady became a judge, he was offered the AG spot to just slide into it. I mean, he would have been appointed the Attorney General, and in Delaware, running as an incumbent is a huge advantage. So, you know, people like me, people who were advisors and friends of him were like, take it, you know, but he did it. He wouldn't do that. He wanted to run and earn it.
And the same thing, I think, would have happened if he ran for the Senate seat when his dad became vice president.
Right.
And, you know, I remember having a long conversation of the pros of why to do it. And you know, it was clear to me that he never really contemplated taking the position. He felt that if he ever was going to do it, he would run for it. And what was interesting, looking back on our friendship, one of the reasons, one of the many reasons why he chose not to run, obviously primarily he felt like he wanted to earn a Senate seat, was because he enjoyed being the Attorney General, wanted to complete the cases that he had, but also he was in Delaware and was close to his family.
Yeah.
And he really loved being able to come home after work and not have to sleep in DC or not have to worry about taking the 8 or 9 o'clock train back. And that was a huge factor, in my opinion, on him choosing to stay as the Attorney General. I mean, one of the 4, I think, or maybe even the most important factor. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that.
So finally, as we saw, I think the biggest punch in the gut part of his death is sort of the potential and what he could have become, and he still had lots to do. How do you think the state will remember him? How will you remember him?
Oh, I think the state will remember all the work that he has done, particularly as it relates to protecting kids. And that was an enormously important part of his mission and what he wanted to do. I mean, with the child predator unit and, you know, the prosecution of Dr. Bradley. And, you know, I think that was really born from, you know, a really honorable, honest place in him as a dad. So I think a lot of people will remember the work that he's done. I'll just remember him as a really great guy with a big heart and a bigger smile and kindness and compassion. And I will always remember him.
Yeah, he really just scratched the surface politically. I think the sky was the limit. If you saw him at the Democratic National Convention speech, you know, he seemed to me that he could be the President of the United States, certainly logical and plausible, and I do think his children one day will hopefully know that about him, and if they don't now. And you know, I think he was the great leader of our generation, and it's a huge loss for our state. It's a huge loss for our friends, and you know, so things like this just don't make sense.
All right, Rob Puccini, Margaret Aitken, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.